it's hard to get sort of your arms around all of what we're doing. We are kind of generalists in a way. We don't have a specific kind of corner of the film world that we occupy. But I would say the thing that sort of ties together a lot of our programming, if not all of it, is discovery. Like when I think of my job, which is I'm the programming director, so that means I run the team that picks all the films that go into the festival. I think about the main chunk of our work, which is watching thousands and thousands of films that filmmakers submit to us from around the country and around the world, and then trying to pick out the films that we think are new and exciting and fresh and original. So we're really trying to dig down deep and figure out what's happening in independent film and to bring that to an audience. So yeah, I think that's sort of, I think of our identity as being discoverers of new voices and trying to give new filmmakers a platform that hopefully they can use as a springboard into a career. Surprise is really the element that that sets a film apart immediately. If it does anything to surprise me, if it does anything that I don't already know it's going to do, because like I've seen thousands, I've probably seen 10 or 15,000 short films specifically, because that's been so much of my work before this, is that I kind of know what to expect. And when something unexpected happens, that's immediately exciting to me. And I think it's exciting for an audience to be immersed in somebody's vision that really is going in a new direction or an unexpected direction. You know, the past couple of years have been dominated by the pandemic, and a lot of our decisions have been sort of with that in mind. So one thing that's different about this year is that it's the first year since 2019 that every film in the festival will be shown in person. We still will have a really robust virtual component. We're keeping that. That was one of sort of the silver linings to come out of the pandemic years. And so almost all of our program will still be available online. But one thing that I wanted to make sure of is that everything showing in the festival will be seen in a theater, because I think the theater is still the best way to see films. And we are a physical festival happening in the real world, in a real city. So why not take advantage of that? And we have an excellent headquarters in the Plaza Theater that's been our home for, I don't know, decades at this point. So yeah, we're sort of embracing the potential of virtual screenings, but also putting a heavy emphasis on in-person screenings. So that, I think, is sort of the vibe for this year. That's kind of that's the specificity, I guess, of where we're at. Yeah. So we've observed that a lot of our audience has moved online. And now, kind of like you're saying, is that a switch that can be thrown back in the opposite direction? Can an audience that's moved online be moved back offline? And we do think we're seeing some indicators of that, but it's never going to go back to things being 100% like in person. People have options that they didn't really have before, and their habits have changed for some people probably permanently, right? But we know there's always new audiences, and we know there's a healthy, what I would consider a cinephile audience in Atlanta. It's a fancy word to use, but if you look at the programming that a place like the Plaza is doing, like the Landmark is doing, like they do up at Emory at their Cinematheque, like there's a healthy, or if you look at Videodrome, the rental store, there's a film culture here, which is something that's, as a newcomer to the city, very exciting about working here. So I feel like we all agree at the Film Society that there's still sort of untapped film loving audiences that we can reach out to. So that's kind of a North Star of ours, but also, yeah, I mean, keeping virtual as an option. I mean, speaking personally, I went to Sundance this year, and half of the movies I watched were after I got home from Park City because I didn't have time while I was there, or they were sold out or too full, whatever. So I really, really valued having the option of coming home, turning on my TV, and just being able to watch the 14, 18 films that I didn't get to watch while I was in person for a couple of days. So that is something that I know is valued by our audience, and we would not, it's the tools are there now. It's a challenging job that we do, is to like pour through all these films and make really tough calls and tough distinctions about like, do we want this or not that? Or like, where does the line fall about like, what is for our audience, what is not fit for our audience? But it is kind of just a nothing to it but to do it scenario. Like you just sort of have to like look at it and pay attention to it. And we try to do our job with intention. And so setting that intention beforehand is sort of most of the work, and sort of sticking true to that. I think it's never felt like an incredible burden to do that part of the work. And I think it's partly because we have so many films to choose from. We have such a great this sort of gift of trust that we have from filmmakers, that they're trusting us with their work. And so that means we have a really wide span of work to choose from. And that submissions base, I think, it would be interesting to see the stats, like sort of out of the thousands of films that submit to us, is that pool getting more diverse? But it feels to me like, just in the culture, like there's more of there's more resources, and there's more sort of, I don't know how to say it. There's more of an environment that cares for diversity, kind of like you're saying. So I think that's motivating, or that's, I don't know, fewer and fewer people are waiting for permission to make their films, right? So I think that's showing in our submissions. But yeah, I would say that we sort of, we didn't set a general target, but I did sort of, like I said, we set out with the intention to create a diverse program, and that's been something that's gone back years here as well. This is my first year, but so we've hit about 50% in terms of films directed by female directors or gender nonconforming directors, and then 50% films directed by directors of color. So I think we're like 48, 49, we're in that sort of ballpark. So yeah, that's really gratifying to me. I like seeing those numbers at the end of the year and knowing that we're kind of doing our part to reverse, obviously, what is a long-standing lack in film festivals, but I mean, really in the film world at large, that there's some voices that are heard and unheard. So yeah, this year we've run into kind of both scenarios where it's like either somebody has sold their film, or they've got distribution rights going out, or they're trying to sell their film. They want to limit the audience in various ways. And we respect that. We're not here to try to mess up anybody's deal on their film, especially for an independent filmmaker. Like, distribution is such a rare kind of goal at this point. And so it's a really rare achievement, unfortunately, for an independent film to go all the way from being produced into distribution of any kind. So yeah, we don't want to mess with that. But also, we've had filmmakers from an artistic standpoint saying, hey, my film really needs to be seen in a theater. And obviously, like I said, we respect that. Like, we respect the theatrical experience. So we're not going to try to push them into putting their film virtually if they don't. But it's pretty rare. Like, that percentage, taking both of those cases into account, it's less than, I mean, it's a fraction, like 5%, I would guess, of our program. Most filmmakers are really pretty, I think, excited to reach as wide an audience as possible, to use the platform that the festival can give. I mean, you have the other side, which is marquees. Those are films that have already been through maybe a little bit of a festival run earlier in this year or going back to last year. And those are controlled by companies that don't want to just put those films online. And that's just the cost of doing business, I mean, that's what it is. They're going to have their own channels to put things on streaming when the time comes. We're excited to offer a good, I think it's about a dozen or maybe 13, 14 marquee films that are, films you're going to be hearing about later in the year as award season revs up for 2023. And we're excited to bring those to Atlanta early. And yeah, that's part of the deal, is you don't just shove that stuff online as well. But yeah, so it's really not one size fits all. And that's part of the pleasure of working for a nonprofit, working for a mission-driven organization, is you can really look at what works for the film, what works for the filmmaker, sort of meet every film and every filmmaker where they're at, which when you have 150 something films that you're programming from filmmakers all over the place, it can get a little daunting, but that's the task at hand. And that's sort of part of what I think is part of my job. And it's one that I enjoy doing. One thing I would point out is that we are doing a special screening of a short film that was executive produced by George R.R. Martin, and we have confirmed that George R.R. Martin himself is going to be in attendance, that being he's the author of the Song of Ice and Fire books, which are adapted into Game of Thrones, of course, and Vincent D'Onofrio, who directed that film, is going to be in attendance. So that's kind of an exciting, thing. We're doing sort of a revival screening, I guess you could say, of Carterland, which is a documentary about Jimmy Carter that we showed in 2019, which was a crowd favorite at the time, and we're doing that sort of in honor of President Carter. You also mentioned short films. We've got a huge, robust, I mean, we show as many short films as South by Southwest or Sundance. Like, we are doing that kind of same work. So, and some of the films that we're showing have shown at those festivals, and so they've already kind of coming to us with a bit of an imprimatur to them. But yeah, we've got, so our documentary shorts, our narrative shorts, and our animated shorts are all Academy Award qualifying, which means that if a film wins an award in one of those competitions, then they are entered into the pool that can be pulled from for Oscar nominees, which is exciting, and that's sort of a feather in our cap and a mark of distinction for the programming that we've done over the years. Some festival films, some marquee films that we're showing include The Divinity, which is a super wild, a late night midnight movie that came out of Sundance. We're showing a film called Medusa Deluxe, which is that's an A24 film that got picked up earlier this year. We are showing Passages, the Ira Sachs movie. That's looking forward to that. And yeah, we have some more here. A film called Sanctuary, which has Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott in it, some sort of indie stars for you. There's a lot to pour through.